Good evening and welcome to Harper's Sports Talk. I'm Jay Harper, your host, and joining me this week is sports editor for the Journal Tribune, Joe Halpern. Joe, good to have you aboard again. And as the basketball season, right about mid-season, just ready to take our All-Star break. Celtics playing tonight, of course, against Houston, and then it's off to the All-Star break. And the Celtics' first half of the season, it's been tumultuous, as it was last year, but a little better results than last year for the injured players being out. Your thoughts right away. We'll get into the Celtics. Celtics haven't had a chance to talk about them in a while. What do you think is going on with Boston? How do you think they'll fare in the second half?
Well, first of all, Celtic fans have to be happy with what's happened so far with so many injuries and the way they're playing and these guys stepping in and filling in. I think the second half of the season is going to depend on when these players come back and how they fit in, and I think that their only chance in the playoffs is to have a healthy Bird and have a healthy D. Brown and have their big three in the front court, and hopefully they can, we were talking about this before, they're going to need home court advantage, and they're going to have to beat Chicago. I mean, that's what it's all going to come down to. Can they beat Chicago? And it looks like they're going to have to take one game in Chicago and then not lose at home.
That should be the key, as you said. Chicago, definitely. The Eastern Championship goes through Chicago, and the NBA title, it travels through Chicago pretty much right now. They're playing incredible basketball. And as you said, home court advantage will be key to the Celtics in the earlier rounds, but then when you get to Chicago, there's no way you're going to catch Chicago to get home court advantage over them, so you'll have to win at least one there and maintain all the wins that you get at the Garden. And, of course, a healthy Larry Bird will be key. I'm happy to report we went down to the Garden yesterday and talked with the Celtics and got to watch their practice as a part of Sports Channel's promotion. And D. Brown, Kevin McHale, practicing, looking very good. They'll both be back right after the All-Star break. D. Brown should be back probably the first game after the break, and McHale right on his heels. So that's something that I'm happy to be able to say, and that should help them. But again, as you hit on, chemistry will now be a new factor for Coach Chris Ford because he's starting to find a new one since the addition of Sherman Douglas. He's had to play the chemistry roles all season long, changing up the lineups and who's getting time and who's meshing with who, and that's going to be one of the biggest things a coach has to go through.
Oh, definitely. And, I think the most impressive thing about this first half of the season is the way they've just thrown guys in there and the way they have gelled so far. Fox has been the most impressive to me. I mean, here was a guy that, in college, no one knew exactly what he can do because he was playing under Dean Smith's system there, and, players really don't shine. They don't get to show all their skills under Dean Smith's system, and taking Michael Jordan, for example.
Exactly.
But he has, Fox has turned into a real hustler. He gives them so much offense that they didn't have before. He gives them great defense. I've been most impressed with his defense and the way he's coming up with turnovers and creating offense. That's the thing. He's still making a lot of rookie mistakes and still forcing a lot of shots, but that's just comes with the territory. But I'm most impressed with him. Sherman Douglas is going to be, he could be a real factor. And you think about it, a backcourt with him and D. Brown is pretty awesome. You got two exceptionally quick guards who can create, who can go to the basket and create offense. And if they could get their full lineup back, I think that they can make it very competitive against Chicago. And I don't mean to jump to Chicago because first they're going to probably have a tough opening round series with, it could be New York. Right?
There's many teams. Yeah, New York
will
be in there, and Indiana maybe. You talk Cleveland, New York, Philly, Philadelphia could be a first round for them. These are teams that'll be, depending where the Celtics fall. If the Celtics come one in the Eastern and number two overall, then they'll get a lesser team. But if they fall three behind New York, they could get a 4 or 5 team. So it'll be interesting who they match up with. But yeah, they'll have to win a couple of big series before they get to Chicago. There's no question about that. And I couldn't agree with you more about Rick Fox. When they drafted Rick Fox last year, I knew Rick Fox. I had watched him play all the way through North Carolina. And as you said, Dean Smith, His coaching style does not let an individual shine. Didn't think he was a great college player. I thought he was better as a sophomore and a junior than he was his senior year. So when the Celtics drafted him, I was very leery, saying, what is this? I mean, what kind of player he is? He's not that big. You know, what kind of role is he going to play? And what he's done so far this year for the Celtics has been phenomenal. He gives quality minutes in every facet of the game, and he's made some incredible shots, some twisting, winding layups. He's hit the outside jumper. He plays good defense. He still gets the fouls called on him, as is the rule in NBA. The rookie gets the foul call no matter if he commits it or not. That'll follow him for a few years until he gets broken in the league. But he's just really done an outstanding job. And then you look, as we mentioned, other guys that have just come in and fit in. I mean, before Bagley did his thing and he got back in form, you know, there was other guys filling in. Ricky Green coming up with some great minutes now. He's not playing that much. And then before that, you know, then Bagley comes back to health. He plays well. And now you got Douglas. And it's just been amazing, all the different players that they've brought in. And each guy has come in and filled the role and done the necessary things. And
the thing that's hurting the Celtics right now is consistency. You know, if you watch one of their games, they'll play 10 minutes of outstanding basketball, and then for 5 minutes they disappear. They stop playing defense. What they have to do is maintain the intensity, and I think you could see Chris Ford on the sideline. He just gets so upset because he's calling timeouts. He's like, "What's happening? How come you guys aren't playing defense anymore?" And I think a lot of that has to do with the injuries. I mean, players still are trying to find out what role they have, and they're filling in, and they're asked to play roles that they really haven't played before.
It's amazing when you think that they've had most of the first half of the season without Parrish, a good long time without McHale, and now a long stretch without Bird. D. Brown hasn't even played yet, and when Shaw was there, he wasn't healthy at the beginning of the season either. And they're still just a game and a half behind New York, and playing some pretty good basketball. In another guy that you just got to be so impressed with, he showed it last year, he showed it a little bit the year before, but really last year was Ed Pinkney. He's been super on the boards. That guy never gives up. He gets so many offensive rebounds. He's got to be one of the key players this year, and he could be a player of the future for the Boston Celtics because he's not that old. He's still got a lot of good years left in him.
Right. You know, anybody that remembers his college career at Villanova, you know, I'm sure they were a little frustrated or a little like asking themselves, why isn't this guy a factor in the NBA? Why isn't he an impact player? And then I think it took a while for the Celtics to come up with a system where he fit in. He didn't know his role, and this year he does know his role. He knows exactly what's asked of him. Get key rebounds, play great defense, and that's exactly what he's doing. And you know, he's going to be a valuable player come playoff time. That whole bench, and that's another reason why I think the Celtic fans could be optimistic, is because in the playoffs your bench is so key, and now they're giving these guys so much experience. And if they could get their full lineup back, they're going to have a strong starting lineup. Plus, they're going to have a very strong bench, and I think that can really help them out.
And then the consistency of Kevin Gamble, still again playing some real strong basketball for the C's. And then you got Reggie Lewis, an all-star season in the first half. He's going off to the all-star game, his first appearance, and he's been the guy that's been their offense with the absence of Larry Bird.
This is the season that the Celtics were hoping Lewis would have had last year. Last year was a frustrating season for Lewis, and it was almost like he was being asked to do too much. This year he seems to be comfortable with his role, and he knows without Bird and without McHale, he's the he's the guy that's going to have to score the points, and he seems to have accepted that role. And he is just playing outstanding basketball. I mean, there are a couple of games I've seen on television. I mean, he's throwing up shots that have no right to go in, and they're going in. I mean, he's playing with so much confidence right now.
He reminds me of Vinnie Johnson of the Pistons with that jump shot. Guy, you know, all over his face, falling backwards, and he's still burying him from 25, 30 feet out. And Lewis has been able to do that this season. Doesn't matter if a guy's in his face or not. He's burying the J. Now, yesterday, we were down there watching practice, and we saw a good practice this year. It was quite impressive. They ran 5-on-5 against each other. They did some 3-on-3, some 1-on-1. And so we got to see them working up close. We were right there standing on the parquet and watching them play. And 2 or 3 times, you know, a hand all over Lewis, and he just buries it from 20 feet out. And it's just, you sit there and just say, how can a guy make a shot like that? And he does it consistently. Every once in a while, you're going to hit one of those, but he does it consistently. And he's had an all-star season, and it's great to see him going off to the all-star game, which should be very exciting this year in the absence of Bird and D. Brown. At least Reggie there to fill a spot for the Celtics, because I couldn't imagine an all-star game without at least one Celtic player.
Oh, I agree. But going back to what you were saying when you went down there and checked out a practice, NBA basketball is the kind of game that you really have to see in person. You miss so much on television. You don't realize what kind of shots these guys are really putting in until you're there and you're seeing it. And I'm sure you were on ground level.
We were.
And you could, I mean, it's just amazing that these guys can put in shots with a hand in their face.
It really is, and you see Parrish do it time and time again. He throws up that rainbow and a hand's in the face, and it sky's up there, and you're saying, there's no way that's going in. And Parrish, one of the most awkward shots in all of basketball, but consistently he hits it. And there's another guy, the Chief, 38 years old and still playing great basketball, running the floor and coming off injuries, bad ankles, and he's still, you know, he's been carrying it. And I loved one of his comments earlier in the year. They were asking him about his offensive output. He goes, well, he said, it's kind of nice because I'm not usually, oh yeah, there's Robert, let's give it to him now, 5th option. You know, he's been the 1st or 2nd option without Larry and Kevin, so he's been getting the ball more, and he kind of put it in perspective. I thought it was funny that he realizes that he isn't the big part of the offensive structure anymore.
I haven't heard him say this season, but I suspect that this is one of his most enjoyable seasons. And the reason why I say that is because here's a guy who a lot of people have written off. I mean, they said he was done, and yet he could go in there and he took Robinson to school. I remember there was a game in the Garden where he just like dominated Robinson, who was quote unquote the best center in the world, and Parrish gives Ewing fits, so he still plays his best basketball against the best players.
And when he matched up against Mutombo early in the year when they played Denver, he showed the Rook that the Chiefs still got a lot of good basketball in him. And he does. He rises to the occasion against the big centers in the league. And when they go to him, I've noticed that, when they go to him, he's there. And a lot of times in games he gets lost in the shuffle. But he's been consistent this year. And because of the emergence of other big centers in the league, I can see him being left off the All-Star ballot. But he still had a pretty incredible first half of the season.
Oh, yeah, and he's been a big part of the Celtics' success. I mean, it's kind of, I always get a kick out of watching older players because they do it with their heads. They don't do it with their bodies. You see these rookies come in, and it's all athleticism. You know, they rely on what they, you know, on their athletic abilities and their skills. But Parrish does it with his head, and he knows all the tricks, and you know he can. He just takes advantage of everything he's learned over the years. You could see it coming out this season, and it's kind of fun to watch.
You mentioned earlier about D. Brown and Sherman Douglas matching up in the backcourt. I wonder, do you think D. Brown is a good number 2 guard, not playing the point, being the off guard, and being a shooting guard? Do you think he can adjust to that role?
Well, I'm not really sure, and I don't even know if they're going to play together, but I'm just saying them in that backcourt, I think that you can bring one guy in and you can bring another guy in, but that's interesting. I don't know if they're going to be in the same backcourt together because one of them's going to have to turn into the shooting guard, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Well, actually, Dave Gavitt yesterday of the Celtics talked to us, and he said, yes, they have full intentions of using D. Brown as a number 2 guard. They think he can stick the outside J. When he was healthy last year at the end of the year, he started to bury that, 20-footer, 15-footer pretty consistently. So they felt comfortable that he could play that, and they would use him in that position, and they'd also use him at point guard too. So they'll be mixing and trying to find the right chemistry in that backcourt. And now you look at it, I mean, Bagley's time's going to be reduced quite a bit because Douglas, as he gets in more playing shape, will start taking away minutes away from Bagley, I'm sure.
And that's the key is Douglas getting in the playing shape because he really is still trying to get his legs back. You could still see him kind of struggling a little to get up and down the floor. But I'll tell you, with Brown and Douglas, that's about the quickest backcourt in the NBA.
It really is. There's some speed there. The other thing I thought was funny yesterday, down there watching, the Celtics got 4 guys that are just 6 feet or 6'1". 4 guys on the roster, and that's pretty new in today's era of basketball. You got Ricky Green, Bagley, D. Brown, and Sherman Douglas. And now they're all 6'1", and I mean, you put those 4 guys standing next to any of the big guys, and I mean, there was a decisive size advantage. It was nice to stand next to those guys, because when you go down there, you stand on the court, and you're looking up at Stoico or Parrish. I mean, you come up to their waist. It's amazing. You're just going, yeah, okay. Especially Stoico. I think he's about 7'4", and he goes up for a shot, and it's just like he's throwing it straight in. He's not even jumping. He's throwing it in. But the Celtics with 4 6'1" guards, and of course, I think Ricky Green will be the odd man out once D. Brown's activated.
The small guards that they have is a blessing, and also it's a curse, because what it's creating is a lot of mismatches. And you see teams going to their guard who's got a considerable height advantage when Douglas, or when D. Brown starts covering them, they'll start going to that guard and trying to post up that guard. So that's something they're going to have to consider. I don't know. That's one of the disadvantages of having a small backcourt.
Yeah, I was concerned when they got Douglas to have such size disadvantage on the defensive side. And then on the offensive side, you look at it, Douglas is not really a good outside shooter. He can drive the lane, he can hit the 10, 12-footer, but I don't know how consistent he can hit the outside shot. And Bagley's another guy who's tentative to take the outside shot. He's not bad outside. And D. Brown, the only one who really can shoot it to some degree of consistency, and he still hasn't proven it on a consistent basis because he's only in his 2nd year. They need, to me, still an outside shooting guard that can hit the 3. They don't, without Bird in the lineup, they have no 3-point shooters. Realistically, nobody can hit that 3.
And there's been a couple of games where they haven't even made a 3-point shot, which is really unusual in the NBA now. Most teams in the NBA have one designated 3-point shooter, and they'll stick 3 or 4 a game. The Celtics can go a whole game without getting any.
And that brings up the next question. Next year's draft, you would think they need height. They need a big man to back up Parrish or McHale or even Bird. One of these guys, I don't know how long their career is going to last, but then again, you need a 3-point shooter. And there's a lot of 3-point shooters in college ranks this year. I mean, two come in mind. Price's younger brother plays at Oklahoma. I think that kid can hit the 3. And Rick Barry's son that plays at Georgia Tech, I mean, he buries the 3 consistently. These guys are great 3-point shooters, and there's numerous others out there. So the Celtics maybe look to maneuver to get early 2nd-round draft pick to try to get the big guy first, and then try to pick up one of these guys in a later round, because they obviously need some help on the outside shooting. And of course, we don't know. Bird's saying now if his back doesn't come back, he may not return for next season.
I don't know if you heard anything, but when it's an ominous sign when you don't hear anything from him in a long time. And I haven't even seen him on the bench during games, which tells me that I don't know what it tells me. It's just not good to not see Bird.
Yeah. The word yesterday from Gavitt, and I saw him practicing at the college the day before, shooting around, is he's starting to work out. His bicycling and his shooting and everything's coming together. And they're hoping 2.5 weeks after the All-Star break, he may return to some playing shape and start getting some time. And they're hoping he's honest and upfront with the team and the doctors, saying if it bothers him, they let him know right away, because Gavitt was kind of funny. He says Larry thinks he's like a dragon slayer, and once he puts on the Celtic green, he'll play with 2 broken legs. It doesn't matter, and he doesn't report his injuries or his illness.
But I did read something where Bird said that he will not go through another season like he did last year, meaning that he was in pain all of last season, and he's not going to do that anymore. And I even heard him mention the word retirement at one point. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops, because it's kind of a scary time for Celtic fans. This could be the end of the Bird era. No one knows.
And it's hard to fathom. It really is. We had a chance to go down to Boston Garden yesterday, as I said, and this ball was donated by Olympia Sports for us to bring down, and Mark Pickard, our cameraman, and many other things that he does here at CTV 30, brought this ball down with us, which I said, well, you're going to bother the guys, but he went over there and after practice got a bunch of autographs on here. We got 11 autographs, 10 players, and Chris Ford autographed it too. D. Brown, Robert Parrish, Rick Fox, Kevin McHale, interesting character. We will talk about him a little bit later, but not the friendliest guy when you try to talk to. But I want to thank Olympia Sports for donating this ball. I will be keeping it here at CTV 30, and a nice prized possession, nice souvenir piece, and we were happy to get those things done, and we got to watch them practice. And I just wanted to mention them and thank them. And before we head to commercial break, we'll plug one more commercial, Sports Picks out of Route 1 in Saco. They have all these different photos to try to keep the glare off this. But here's one of Art Laveris, and of course the ones behind us, Melina Martin, field hockey player this past season for Thornton Academy, and some of the other posters you see, DeRocher for Thornton Academy behind Joe Halpern, my guest, diving over the pile against Marshwood. He's got all these pictures in his library at the studios on Route 1, and if you play sports for Thornton, Biddeford, Old Orchard, Scarborough, all the local teams, he's got a whole library of pictures, snapshots taken of different kids in all different sports, ice hockey, field hockey, football, basketball, you name it, he's got it. And you can go through, if you're a player or a parent of some of these kids, and decide to have some of these pictures blown up, like the ones behind us. You have them blown up or made into 5x8s, 8x10s, and various price ranges, and very reasonable. And today's video era, yeah, you see a lot of these things on video, and you get to watch games, but it's nothing like having a nice snapshot on your wall for the kid to remember his playing days. So Sports Picks, they're on Route 1 in Saco. I hope you stop by and check them out because they got a lot of great stuff, and we appreciate them donating the pictures for our set here at CTV 30. You're watching Harper Sports Talk. My guest, Joe Halpern. We're going to take a break. We'll be back to talk about the All-Star Game coming up this weekend. We're back right after this.
1985, the Golden Rooster has been owned and operated by the Riziakis family, who continue to serve their valued customers with the same pride and dedication that the Golden Rooster has established throughout the years. They feature a wide menu selection of breakfast, lunch, and dinner specials, including their own traditional Greek dishes and pastries. The Riziakis family invites you to come in and relax in their casual atmosphere of courteous and friendly service with great family dining, located at 236 Main Street in Saco.
And don't forget the Golden Rooster's $1.99 special, 2 eggs, home fries, toast, and your choice of meat.
Yeah, we eat there regularly too, and I got some great food at the Golden Rooster. Jay Harper, you're watching Harper Sports Talk. Our guest sports editor for the Journal Tribune, Joe Halpern. And Joe and I have been talking about the Celtics, and now with the All-Star Game this weekend, move into that. Should be a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of controversy. Once again, Magic Johnson, the guy can't walk away from the game quietly because he still wants to play. You can't blame him there. But then you just have to wonder about the outside world and all the stuff they're throwing at this guy. Every time he wants to do something, whether it's playing in the Olympics this summer or now the All-Star Game, Charles Barkley's been complaining, saying, you know, it's for the guys. What do you think about this whole controversy surrounding Magic Johnson?
Well, I think the All-Star Game is a game for the fans, and I think the fans want to see Magic Johnson. They want to see him play again, so why not? You know, I have no problem with that. I don't even have a problem with him playing in the Olympics either, because he's to me he represents basketball in this country, and why not? If he can play, if he can help the team out and he's healthy, then I think he should play.
I couldn't agree with you more. There is no question in my mind the fans want this. I mean, he came in second in the guard voting, and that's only because fans knew he wasn't available. But then all of a sudden Magic realized he's not unhealthy in any terms, that he can't play. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Magic come back and try a season next year back with the Lakers. I don't think he's done playing basketball. I don't think the disease or the HIV infection is that far along in his body that he can't play a game. Even if he played like just home games and didn't go on the road with the team, I think he could contribute a valuable role to the Lakers, something they still miss. And I think he is a diplomat for the game of basketball. Him and Larry Bird just brought the NBA to a whole nother level. When they came out, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and basketball really took off ever since then. And why not? Why not let him play? And, you know, he's not going to take away everyone's minutes. He's going to go out there, throw a few nice passes, hit a couple of shots, and the place is going to go nuts. And it's going to be fun to see. The only shame in this whole thing is that Larry, the guy who signifies basketball with him, won't be there to share in it. They're good friends. It'd be nice to see them competing against each other in that setting. And I don't understand Charles Barkley, do you? What he's really, they're supposedly friends, and why would he even say anything about it? Just leave it alone.
Charles Barkley says what's on his mind. You know, he's very controversial. Was it earlier this season? He punched a fan. You know, Charles Barkley is not your. He has his own way of doing things, and I think my prediction is that Barkley's going to be traded from the 76ers. I think that they've had enough of him there, and I think the teammates have turned against him, and it's gotten to the point where he's really not helping the team that much anymore. He's really not having a great season. You look at his statistics, this is one of his worst years, I think, since he's been in the NBA.
Yeah, it really isn't his better year, much better year last year. Looking at the All-Star roster real quickly, I mean, you got Barkley of Philadelphia, Bird, who won't be there, Doherty and Patrick Ewing, the two centers. You got Dumars, Jordan, Lewis, and Price, the guards, and then Pippen, Rodman, and Wilkins, who won't be playing. Kevin Willis has now gotten that roster spot, and Isaiah Thomas of Detroit. So Detroit, quite a few players. Chicago's got Pippen and Jordan on the East, and then on the West you got Drexler, Hornacek, Hardaway, Johnson, Malone, Mullen, Mutombo, Olajuwon, Robinson, Stockton, Thorpe, and Worthy. Again, a pretty good representation. A few new players that haven't seen their time. Of course, Reggie, we talked about him getting the spot this year too.
My thoughts on the NBA All-Star Game is of all the All-Star games, I'm talking football, baseball, basketball, I think the NBA All-Star Game is the best. I mean, it allows the players to shine, to do what they do best, and it's usually a great show. You're going to see some great shots, and you're going to see a lot of scoring.
That's it. Usually see 150 apiece on that one.
And thinking about the NHL All-Star Game, where there's absolutely no checking, you're actually going to see some pretty good defense in the NBA game.
Well, pretty good. I'm glad you said pretty good because, yeah, they like to air it up.
But there is a lot of pride on the line here, and
Sure.
They're going to be going for block shots, and
Yeah.
they're not going to allow guys to just stuff the ball over them. So there's going to be a lot of one-on-one upmanship going on in the NBA All-Star Game, and that's what I really love. I just love when a guy comes down the floor and it's like, okay, it's his turn to play. I don't like to see it when in regular season
Right.
NBA games because it gets really frustrating and it gets monotonous. But in the NBA All-Star Game, I don't mind it.
Exactly.
I almost want to see them, what they can do, what they can do, and how they can do it better than the next guy.
Exactly, and it's 12 premier players from each league, and when it's their time to shine on offense, they give them the ball and they let them go, and it's amazing some of the moves and the stuff you see. And then come crunch time, that's when they really dig in defensively, and it's on the line. And most All-Star games, they'll take a big spread and they'll come back, take a big spread, but it seems like the last few minutes the game's tight and there is something on the line at the end. And I would think the reason why you like the NBA All-Star game so much over, of course, baseball, which is the one that really stands out in my mind because it's such a celebrated affair and it's a real game. I think is the competitions that they have before, the three-point shooting now,
Yeah.
the dunk contest. It really adds so much glamour. And the NHL tried to incorporate that this year with their skating around cones and
Right.
firing the slap shots, hitting plates.
And the baseball, they do a home run hitting contest and stuff like that. But with the NBA, I think it's the most exciting. The dunk shooting contest is. I mean, you can almost name the guys who have won that. Can you name the guy that won the home run hitting contest in the baseball thing? I can't.
Exactly. And, D. Brown last year,
I mean, people
he was just shot into national prominence
Right.
after that dunk thing.
And what's great is that people know exactly the shot he took. He
Yep.
covered his eyes with one hand and he dunked with the other. And I could still remember Sky Walker. I'm a New York Knicks fan.
Yeah.
And I remember the shot that he won with. It was almost like a windmill dunk, and his legs were up in the air. And these are scenes that I remember, and it's just great to see. And the three-point shooting is a lot of fun too.
Without Larry, it's not as much fun. He was going to compete in that this year. Unfortunately, the back's just not ready to do that because even if he didn't play, he wanted to still shoot the threes, but he's bowed out of that. But yeah, I mean, D. Brown, just think of the millions of dollars he made last year just by that competition. I mean, he pumped up the sneakers, which was an incredible ploy on his part because that was an instant deal, whether he won the competition or not, which helped him win it too. He was going to get a sneaker deal, and then after he won the whole thing, I mean, my God, the commercial money he's made since then, and he's a known player throughout the league, all because of that. I mean, he had a good season, no doubt about it, but that was the highlight of the season, and that's what everyone remembers him for. So the NBA All-Star Game, it's a lot of fun. You look forward to it.
Yeah. And what day is that? Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
It's Sunday.
See, it's so much you look forward to it, you forget what day it's on, right, Joe?
Well, I mean, we got the Olympics, and there's a lot of stuff going on at this time of year.
As we wrap up the show, your final thoughts on the Celtics? If they get everyone healthy, you think they can make a run at Chicago?
Well, I think it's a long shot. I really do. I think Chicago is heads and shoulders above everyone else in the NBA, and they're actually playing better basketball now than they did last year at this time, which is really scary because how good they are. But I think the Celtics do have a chance, and it's gonna have a lot of factors involved here. Getting the players back, seeing how the chemistry works, and hopefully stealing one in Chicago.
Exactly. I think the chemistry is the key. But you look down the Celtics bench now, and they're 9 and 10 deep. And I don't ever remember seeing a Boston Celtic team that deep. I mean, they are really deep when they get everyone back. When they get Brown and McHale, as I said earlier, we saw them practicing yesterday. We'll show you some footage of that in coming weeks. But they're ready to play. Right now, it looks like they're just getting in health. And then Bird back, and then you got 2 and 3 deep at every position. And I think if they stay healthy and don't overuse their key men, that they definitely can make a run at it. And I think the Celtics healthy are the second best team in the East. And if they get lucky, you know, they could knock off Chicago. In the West this year, hey, I gotta like the Golden State Warriors. Although Portland's come on strong, I really like Golden State, and I'd love to see them go through the West and have a new team out there.
No one's going to like me saying this, but I think the strength is in the West this year. If you take the West and you look at the top 5 teams in the West, there's no comparison to the top 5 teams in the East. I think after Chicago, the talent level drops a little bit. After Chicago and Cleveland is turned it up a little bit, but I think Boston and New York are a rung below that, even though they can make it competitive.
I agree with you. All right, I want to thank my producer tonight, Mark Cantor, cameraman Mark Pickard. Thank my guest, Joe Halpern, sports editor for the Journal Tribune. Catches articles in there all the time. And Joe, always a pleasure to have you on. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Well, thanks a lot for having me back.
And I want to thank a couple sponsors tonight. Sports Picks, where you can get all these posters, local sports people. You can get these on Route 1 in Saco. He has a whole library of pictures. And also thanks to Olympia Sports for that basketball. I'm Jay Harper for Harper Sports Talk saying so long. We'll see you again next Wednesday.